Hello and welcome to the Daily Space for today, March 29th, 2019. I am your host, Dr. Pamela Gay, and I am here to put science in your brains. Today we have a variety of stories coming to us, mostly from the Earth and Mars. And it's not all good news, so be ready for space sadness. But we're going to start with things that are, well, wet and wild, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. In today's first story, we have a tale of Mars rivers. We have long known, and by long I mean for like 5 years, we have known for sure that there was liquid water on the surface of Mars. It was with Mars Phoenix that we first were able to uncover frozen ice on the surface, and it is with the Mars exploration rovers and Mars Curiosity that we have continued to see the geological signs of, well, a river ran through this surface. Today, we have results coming to us from Edwin Kite that show that those rivers that flowed across the surface of Mars, and here we have one shown in a false color image where the colors are indicative of the height of the land. So yellow is deeper, blue is higher. In this particular image, that dotted line traces the edge of a river flowing across the surface of Mars. It was about 3.7 billion years ago that Mars lost its initial thick atmosphere. And it lost this atmosphere because Mars just doesn't have enough gravity to hold on tight, and it also doesn't have a magnetosphere to protect particles in its atmosphere from being hit by solar particles and knocked into escape velocities and blown into, well, other parts of the solar system. While Mars stopped having that thick atmosphere about 3.7 billion years ago, it now looks like the liquid water on the surface continued to flow until only a billion years ago. This means that at the time that eukaryotes, a kind of bacteria on our own planet, were beginning to emerge and evolve, Mars also had an atmosphere. Well, not an atmosphere, it had an environment with liquid water. This means there are new consequences for how we think about, was Mars once a place that had life? It's kind of amazing to think about. So now we just need more in situ exploration, more exploration of these riverbanks, more explorations of the seashores that dot the surface of Mars, to go looking to see what fossil remnants we find, what geological sedimentary layers we find, documenting this, well, wet history on the red planet. Now, while that was an exciting tale of, well, tracing the water, our next tale of tracing the water isn't quite so happy. The Europa Clipper is the next great exploration mission that is scheduled to go out and explore our outer solar system. It's currently slated to launch sometime in the 2020s. It's showing a launch target of 2023 right now, but it's slated to launch on the Space Launch Systems, which keeps slowly, well, falling behind in when it will launch. And Europa Clipper is also running into its own problems. It is, well, for some of its instruments at least, running over budget and behind schedule. The instrument in particular that we are concerned about today is its magnetometer. This particular instrument would have been used to very carefully measure the magnetic fields in and around the Jupiter moon Europa, a world in our solar system that is considered by many to be the most likely place to support life in our solar system. This not so little moon has surface ice that is some number of kilometers thick, with scientific estimates ranging from a few kilometers to over 10 kilometers thick. And beneath that layer of ice, well, it's believed that there are vast oceans that are warmed by geothermal activity deep in the heart of Europa. Now, that magnetometer that was planned, because it was running behind schedule and over budget, has been canceled. And that means the team that was working on it has lost their funding. The students, the researchers are now looking for new jobs, and NASA, well, not looking for new jobs, they're looking for new funding to continue doing research. And the magnetometer that was planned has now been greatly simplified. NASA has reallocated remaining funding to do a simplified magnetometer, and they have tasked the scientist who did the original magnetometer for the Galileo spacecraft that in the late 90s and early 2000s explored Jupiter. They have called on that individual to, build the new instrument. So it is Margaret Kevelson, a professor emeritus from the University of California, Los Angeles, who will lead this development of a simplified magnetometer. This means they are literally pulling a human being out of retirement to get this project on schedule. Now, this brings us to our final question of today, and this is, what is the future of space launch systems? And we don't have an answer to this, but I do want to, as we reflect on the Europa Clipper mission, consider this week's press conference associated with the National Space Committee. One of the things that has been greatly discussed is the future of space launch systems. This is a rocket that builds on existing technologies. As you look at this artist's illustration, that to me looks rather foreboding and as though very bad things are happening, but actually just depicts the solid rocket boosters separating from the main liquid oxygen central engine. As you look at this, it may look somewhat familiar. It may resemble to you the, bright orange or ruddy orange liquid oxygen booster of the space shuttle, as well as its white solid rocket boosters. And this is because that is what technology is being built upon. And if we look at the full schedule for what the space launch system is supposed to entail, it is actually a suite of different rockets that share technologies but are configured in different ways. These different rockets are our pathway into one possible vision for NASA space exploration on the human space exploration side of things. These rockets are currently scheduled to launch not just the Europa Clipper that we have mentioned, but through a series of 13 additional launches that are slated to take between the early 2020s and the 2030s. We are looking at a series of different configurations that, would give us the highest mass capability that we've ever had when it comes to what we're capable of putting into space. The current planned missions include building the Deep Space Gateway and beginning plans for how do we get to the moon and beyond. Now, this plan, just like the magnetometer on Europa Clipper, is behind schedule and over budget. And one of the things that I want to address right now is how that happens. Well, with things like the Europa Clipper and the James Webb Space Telescope and so many other scientific discoveries, scientists say we need to innovate this new and amazing thing. And this is what has to go into our innovations. But while we know what key steps need to take place, we don't necessarily have a fully working model of all those different things. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm one of those people that buys things off Kickstarter that I want to see come into the world. And I know that when I buy a lot of those things, it may take a while before I actually get that item in my hands. And sometimes it's probably never going to happen. And I'm really going to hope I can somehow get a refund. I'm currently waiting on a wireless charging device that also has LED lights and a clock, and I'm looking forward to getting it. And it's like 6 months behind schedule, but I see the progress they're making. I know that I'm not going to end up paying more in the future, and so I'm willing to wait because that is a technology I want to see in my life. Now, if it had instead been like the hammock tent I purchased, which came in on time and on budget, that's all technology that already exists. And I'd be really questioning, why is that thing over budget? When people are building things like houses that are new, they can predict, this is something that I know what it is. This is something that we have the technology in hand. We have the construction materials in hand. We know how to do this. And things that can come in on time and on budget. If you're getting home repairs, they may discover, oh, expletive, there's something involved in building this house, or something rather involved in renovating this house where I open up a wall and discover a whole lot of dry rot. And now I'm going to have to do things that weren't initially in my time schedule or my budget. And that changes the plans. And when you're innovating technologies that have never existed before, it's impossible to know what struggles you're going to face. Now, with space launch systems, because of how they're trying to partner existing technologies in new ways, it's kind of like renovating a house, but also innovating completely new technologies. So they kind of have the worst of everything going into this, where they can't be nimble. They're building on existing technologies, just like if you're renovating your house, you don't have the same flexibility you have when you're starting from an empty lot. SpaceX is starting from an empty lot. It's a lot easier for them to be nimble in what they do. So as we look at space launch systems, they are over budget. They are behind schedule. And I can understand and am kind of on the side of the people who are saying we need to just give up. This is a sunk cost fallacy, start over, and just free ourselves from saying we have to be married to these existing technologies. We need to embrace the flexibility of being nimble. With Europa Clipper, I really struggle. Here they are planning the next great observatory to go and explore the outer solar system. They're innovating new technologies. And rather than committing to doing something new and difficult and taking the time and the budget that's necessary to do something new and nimble, they're canceling an instrument and bringing someone out of retirement to replicate technology from 2000. Actually, from well before 2000, because that's when Galileo was at Jupiter, not when Galileo was launched. As we work to build our way into the future, we want to dream big, and we want to provide the necessary budgets and time to dream big and innovate. Innovation doesn't come when you schedule it. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the coming years, where we see NASA's budget as suggested by the president, but not yet allocated by Congress, has been radically cut, but the dreams have been radically increased. It's now going to be up to Congress to decide, well, how big a dream are we allowed to have based on the funding they allocate and the line items that they put in that budget. I don't know what the future will bring, but I can tell you that I'm not sure all the decisions are going to necessarily come out the way scientists may hope or the way any of us may dream. So if you have opinions, well, this is where we live in a democracy and you know what to do. And that concludes today's, news and opinion here at the Daily Space. I'm now going to take your questions, and I'm going to say, remember to add us as you add those questions in. This has been today's episode of the Daily Space for March 28th, 2019. I am Dr. Pamela Gay, and we bring you this show most Mondays through Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and right now, because of the craziness and when everyone does daylight savings time, it's 5 p.m. UTC. So, thank you for being here. We are a production of the Planetary Science Institute working in collaboration with Youngstown State University. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, which means your donations are tax deductible where the law allows. Thank you so much to all of you who have donated, because you are what keeps the science flowing. Now, to look and see what questions we have in the chat. Scrolling. So Larry Weird and Proud asks, is there evidence of liquid water at Mars in the present day or just ice? It depends on which papers you believe. One of the current controversies about in the Martian science community is how to understand dark streaks that appear to be in some images of the surface of Mars. In some of these images, they appear to be seasonal. They appear to trace the sides of craters, of cliffs, and perhaps indicate that this is where briny water that is extraordinarily salty flows either across the surface or just under the surface, wetting the materials. Now, the reason that I say it would be extremely salty or briny is in order to have liquid at the temperatures of Mars today, you have to have really salty water. Salty water freezes at a different temperature than fresh water. Now, there are those out there that maintain that these dark streaks that we're seeing are instead landslides or perhaps even just failure to process the images correctly. This is where we need to figure out how to really sterilize a robot so that robot can actually go out and explore the places where these dark streaks occur and get an in situ understanding. Until we really understand how to sterilize robots, however, we're not going to do that because places with liquid water are places where life potentially could still exist on Mars today. We don't know just how dead or alive the red planet really is. And so we're going to try and protect what we can. Now, to be fair, we have sent so many robots to that world that there is the chance that we've already contaminated its surface. We've already killed off whatever life may be there. But hopefully we've only done that in the regions around the landers that we've sent. Planetary protection is real. It's a concern and it has legal consequences right now. And we are trying to protect what we can. So continuing to look and see what questions we have. Oh, did I say STS instead of SLS? Sorry if I did that. So STS was Space Shuttle, SLS was the Space Launch System. As a child of the Space Shuttle era, that slip of the tongue I apologize for. That's what I grew up saying. Oh, wow, it is totally not a day of questions. So Journey Started is asking, how will Europa's new online IP and link, how will Europe's, not Europa's, okay. How will Europe's new online intellectual property and link use, what will it mean, I think, for CosmoQuest? So this is what we're in the process of finding out. So we are actually in the process of doing some significant research with CosmoQuest, trying to understand how to ethically do citizen science. We recognize that there are teachers out there that require their students to do citizen science, which means those kids are contributing data without having the freedom to consent. We recognize that there are people out there who don't speak English who've been contributing data and don't actually understand what they're contributing to. They just saw a link on the internet. So we're trying to figure out how to develop a IKEA-style informed consent document. We are working to figure out how to make it possible for you to better understand what you're doing. So when we relaunch our site, we will be making sure that everything conforms to the new policies and actually goes beyond them to do what is right instead of doing what is minimally legal. So stay tuned. We with CosmoQuest really want to pioneer what it means to ethically do citizen science and have informed consent. Do we have any other questions out there? I'm not seeing any, and I am happy to answer anything you may have. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to say, hey, give us a follow because we will bring you launches, landings, and other special events as they happen. I'm also going to ask, can you promote us to your friends? Because for some reason, we have been having significantly lower watch numbers lately, and we'd like to figure out how to undo that. Not replicate it. We'd like to figure out how to undo that. So anything you guys could do to help us promote our channel and get it out to your friends, we'd really appreciate that. In addition, if you ever miss one of these episodes live, you can find them over on YouTube. Susie Murph is doing her best to get everything transferred over the same day. And you are helping to pay her through your donations and contributions to this channel. You are also covering Annie's salary. I'm currently volunteering my time until we bring in more funding. So thank you for everything that you do. And that's all I've got for today. So we are going to look for a channel to raid that is part of the Knowledge Fellowship. The Knowledge Fellowship is an online community over on Discord that works to bring together. Thank you so much. Why did that? Okay, I need to fix that alert so that it shows up on the screen better. Let me figure out who I need to be thanking. Thank you, Veronica Cure. Thank you. And let me see if I can get some excited dogs. I have one excited dog. So I will switch over to this view so you can see the one dog as I fling Cheerios. Okay. I have one dog that apparently is deeply confused by Cheerios. Eddie will find them later and be very grateful. So thank you guys for everything that you do in supporting our channel. I'm sorry that my dog is kind of lame today. Most boring dog ever. Thank you guys for everything that you do to support us. And as I said, am gonna find someone over on the Knowledge Fellowship to host over to. So let's see who all is live. So Oh Bother is currently live. And I think he's doing the most relevant content for today. He is a maker who also does a great deal of software and other cool stuff to help him figure out how to put more cool stuff into the world. So I am going to run the credits and afterwards raid over to Oh Bother. So once again, thank you guys for everything that you do, and wherever you are in the world, have a fabulous morning, evening, or afternoon, and get outside and look up. Bye-bye.